Welcome to True Crime Threads, where we unravel gripping tales of mystery and betrayal. In today's episode, we uncover the shocking story of Gabriela Morales, a Mexican businesswoman whose trip to El Salvador ended in tragedy after she uncovered her husband's dark secrets. Gabriela Morales was the epitome of success, a self-made businesswoman from Monterrey, Mexico, whose story inspired countless women aspiring to break barriers in male-dominated industries. In her late 30s, Gabriela was at the height of her career, having built an empire in the textile industry from the ground up. Her sharp mind, relentless work ethic, and visionary leadership had earned her a reputation for transforming challenges into opportunities. Gabriela's life appeared as perfectly woven as the fine fabrics her company produced, and her marriage to Rafael Morales seemed to be the ultimate testament to her good fortune. Rafael, her husband of 8 years, was a charismatic entrepreneur whose import-export business complemented Gabriela's own ambitions. Together, they were the definition of a power couple, attending galas, mingling with political figures, and gracing the pages of business magazines. To outsiders, their life was a dream, a sprawling estate in Monterrey, luxury vacations abroad, and mutual success that reinforced their bond. Gabriela often credited Rafael's support as a cornerstone of her accomplishments. Yet, beneath the surface of their enviable lives, small cracks were beginning to form. Ones Gabriela had either failed to notice or chosen to ignore. One evening, as they dined together at their favorite rooftop restaurant, Rafael casually mentioned that he needed to travel to El Salvador for an important business deal. He explained that the deal had the potential to solidify their financial future, presenting an opportunity too good to pass up. Gabriela, ever the strategist, saw potential beyond the immediate profits. She suggested accompanying him, eager to expand her network and explore potential partnerships in a new market. Rafael hesitated, his smile faltering for a split second before recovering. He told her that the trip might be taxing, full of meetings and logistical challenges, but Gabriela was undeterred. Her instincts told her that this was the right move, and her confidence left Rafael little room to object. With a reluctant nod, he agreed, though Gabriela couldn't help but notice a fleeting trace of discomfort in his demeanor. The couple arrived in San Salvador a week later. Gabriela was captivated by the city's charm, the vibrant markets, colonial architecture, and the warmth of its people, but her excitement was tempered by an unease that crept in almost immediately. Rafael's behavior, typically calm and confident, shifted noticeably. He began taking phone calls in hushed tones, retreating to the balcony of their hotel suite late at night. He would leave abruptly during the day, offering vague explanations about meetings that couldn't be rescheduled. Gabriela, a woman whose instincts had guided her through years of business negotiations, sensed something was wrong. Rafael was avoiding her questions, dismissing her concerns with nonchalant reassurances. The more she observed, the more convinced she became that his behavior was not just the result of professional stress. Despite her growing unease, Gabriela tried to focus on her own goals. She attended networking events and explored potential collaborations with local textile suppliers. Yet, Rafael's secrecy loomed over her like a shadow, nagging at the edges of her thoughts. Her intuition, honed by years of navigating complex business landscapes, told her that something far more serious was unfolding. Unbeknownst to Gabriela, the trip she had envisioned as an opportunity to grow her empire would soon unravel into a nightmare beyond her worst imaginings. While Rafael was out on one of his increasingly frequent and unexplained errands, Gabriela decided to explore the streets of San Salvador on her own. She wandered through bustling markets filled with colorful textiles, admired historic landmarks, and eventually found herself in a quiet cafe tucked away on a cobblestone street. The atmosphere was welcoming, a comforting contrast to the unease that had been building inside her since their arrival. Gabriela ordered a coffee and sat by the window, watching the world go by as she tried to clear her mind. It was there that she struck up a casual conversation with a local woman, a friendly stranger who seemed eager to chat. As they exchanged pleasantries, the woman remarked on how Gabriela's husband appeared familiar. Confused, Gabriela asked her to elaborate. The woman explained that she had seen Rafael in the area several times over the past few months. This revelation took Gabriela by surprise. The two men were friends. She knew Rafael had traveled to El Salvador before, but the frequency implied by the woman's comment was unsettling. Gabriela's thoughts raced as she pieced together the implications of this casual remark. Why had Rafael been so insistent on traveling alone? Why had he never mentioned the frequency of his visits, brushing them off as infrequent routine trips? The more she dwelled on it, the more convinced she became that Rafael was hiding something significant. Her suspicions were further fueled later that evening when Rafael returned to their hotel. As he stepped into the room, she noticed a subtle nervousness in his mannerisms. His usual charm was now overshadowed by a tense, distracted demeanor. When he left his suitcase unattended to shower, Gabriela couldn't resist the urge to investigate. It was unlike her to snoop, but the seeds of doubt planted by the cafe conversation had taken root. As she searched through his belongings, she discovered something odd. A second phone, one she had never seen before. The device was hidden beneath a pile of folded clothes, as though Rafael had wanted to keep it out of sight. Gabriela hesitated, her hands trembling as she unlocked the phone using Rafael's common passcode. What she uncovered left her breathless. The device was filled with encrypted messages, their contents cryptic but clearly significant. There were photographs of large shipments and locations that didn't seem tied to any legitimate business dealings. Even more damning, Gabriela found records of wire transfers to unfamiliar names and accounts. The amounts were staggering, far exceeding anything she had ever known Rafael to handle. As she delved deeper, a chilling pattern began to emerge. These transactions and communications suggested ties to illegal activities, including money laundering and possible arms deals. Gabriela sat frozen, her mind struggling to process the enormity of what she had uncovered. This wasn't just a case of her husband being evasive or keeping secrets, it was far worse. Rafael wasn't just concealing something from her, he was deeply involved in a dangerous world she had never imagined him being a part of. She felt trapped, unsure of what to do. Confronting Rafael seemed like a perilous choice. His erratic behavior suggested that he would not react well to being questioned. Seeking help felt equally risky. Gabriela couldn't trust anyone in a foreign country, especially with the possibility that Rafael's associates might be watching her every move. In that moment, Gabriela realized her only option was to gather more evidence. She needed to understand the full extent of Rafael's involvement before deciding on her next step. Yet, as she resolved to dig deeper, a lingering sense of dread settled over her. She was venturing into dangerous territory, and every instinct told her that uncovering the truth could put her life in grave danger. Determined to expose the truth and uncover the full scope of Rafael's secrets, Gabriela decided to take matters into her own hands. Her instincts told her that Rafael's late-night phone calls and unexplained absences were tied to something far darker than she initially suspected. Her suspicions turned into a resolve to gather undeniable evidence, no matter the risks. When Rafael mentioned he had a business meeting on the outskirts of San Salvador, Gabriela saw an opportunity she couldn't ignore. That evening, as Rafael left the hotel, Gabriela followed him at a discreet distance. She had memorized the route he had taken before disappearing on previous occasions, and this time she was prepared with a small camera tucked into her purse. The streets grew quieter as they moved farther from the city center. Eventually, Rafael's car pulled into a desolate industrial area surrounded by crumbling warehouses and dim streetlights. Gabriela parked her rented car at a safe distance, her heart pounding as she watched him enter one of the buildings. Gabriela waited, torn between fear and determination. When she finally saw movement near the entrance, she raised her camera, snapping photographs as discreetly as possible. Rafael was standing with a man who exuded an air of menace, dressed in a sharp suit. His stance and demeanor radiated authority. This was no ordinary business associate. Gabriela watched as a briefcase exchanged hands, the weight of its contents causing the man to adjust his grip. Moments later, Rafael accepted a small package wrapped tightly in brown paper. Though she couldn't see what was inside, the transaction screamed of illegitimacy. She took more photos, trying to steady her shaking hands. Her worst fears were confirmed. Rafael wasn't just involved in something questionable, he was deeply embedded in an underground criminal network. The man she thought she knew, the husband she had trusted, was conducting deals that could have life-altering consequences for both of them. Gabriela's mind raced. Should she confront him? Should she take the evidence to the authorities? The gravity of her situation dawned on her. If Rafael was part of something this dangerous, his associates were likely just as ruthless. Exposing him would mean putting herself in harm's way. She hurried back to her car, clutching the camera as though it were her only lifeline. Her thoughts spiraled as she considered her next move. In a moment of desperation, she decided to call the authorities. Yet, as she reached for her phone, she noticed headlights in her rearview mirror. A vehicle was idling a short distance away, its engine rumbling ominously. Panic surged through her. It was no coincidence. Someone was watching her. She immediately turned the car on and drove away, trying to keep her breathing steady as she navigated the labyrinth of streets back to the hotel. The headlights followed her for several blocks before vanishing into the night. But the fear remained. Back in the safety of her hotel room, Gabriela realized the depth of her predicament. Rafael's criminal associates would stop at nothing to protect their operations. If they suspected she was a threat, she knew she would be their next target. Her marriage was no longer a bond of love and trust, it was a web of lies that now threatened her very existence. With every step forward, she felt the noose tightening, but Gabriela knew there was no turning back. She had started unraveling the truth, and stopping now could cost her everything. Gabriela's lifeless body was discovered days later near the edge of a river on the outskirts of San Salvador. The gruesome scene sent shockwaves through both local and international media. Her body bore signs of a struggle, and though her belongings were missing, something about the case didn't sit right with authorities. Initially, her death was ruled a robbery gone wrong, but inconsistencies in the evidence quickly pointed to foul play. The discovery sparked an international outcry, especially in Mexico, where Gabriela was celebrated as a symbol of success and empowerment. Her family, friends, and colleagues demanded answers. The idea that such a remarkable woman could fall victim to random violence seemed incomprehensible to those who knew her. As public pressure mounted, Salvadoran investigators intensified their efforts, unearthing a series of chilling clues that painted a far more sinister picture. Within days, evidence emerged that tied Gabriela's death to her husband, Rafael. Witness statements placed him in the vicinity of the crime scene shortly before her body was found. Surveillance footage captured Rafael meeting with known associates of a transnational criminal network just hours before Gabriela disappeared. It became clear that this was no random act of violence. It was an orchestrated execution. Rafael had engineered his wife's murder to protect his empire. Gabriela's discovery of his criminal activities had posed an existential threat to the intricate web of money laundering, arms smuggling, and illicit deals that sustained his operation. Desperate to silence her before she could expose the truth, Rafael had turned to his associates to ensure the deed was done. The plan was carried out with ruthless efficiency, leaving behind no direct evidence that could implicate him immediately. What Rafael hadn't anticipated was Gabriela's meticulous nature. Unbeknownst to him, she had spent her final days documenting everything she had uncovered about his criminal dealings. Her notes, photographs, and copies of encrypted messages were hidden in a secure compartment of her luggage. Though Rafael and his associates believed they had erased all traces of her knowledge, her foresight proved to be their undoing. Investigators uncovered Gabriela's hidden files while searching through her belongings. The evidence she had gathered was damning. It exposed Rafael's deep involvement in a sprawling criminal network and provided the authorities with the missing pieces needed to connect him to years of illicit activity. Gabriela's photographs of the clandestine meeting, records of suspicious financial transactions, and detailed notes on her suspicions became the foundation of the case against Rafael. The fallout was swift. Rafael was arrested in a dramatic raid that made headlines across the globe. His associates, many of whom were also implicated by Gabriela's evidence, were rounded up in coordinated operations. Within months, a vast criminal operation spanning multiple countries was dismantled thanks to Gabriela's courage and determination. But the victory was bittersweet. Gabriela's loved ones were left to grapple with the devastating loss of a woman who had been a beacon of hope and ambition. Her death became a haunting reminder of how greed and deception can destroy even the strongest bonds. Today, Gabriela Morales is remembered not just for her success, but for her bravery in the face of unimaginable danger. Her story serves as a cautionary tale, urging others to question what lies beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives. Her legacy endures, a testament to the resilience of truth in face of darkness.